All right, so in this section of the chapter, what we're going to do is we're going to walk through creating a full business review process from start to finish using the Kaleo Designer. Okay. Now the Kaleo Designer can be found, like I mentioned in the last video, in the control panel. All right, and so what we can do is we can add and modify our states, tasks, transitions, all visually, and we can modify their different settings for those nodes, if you will. What we'll also do here is we'll also look at some of the other options that we have, such as forks and joins to have some parallel review processes, and we can also look at our conditional options as well. Okay. All right, so for our state nodes, we do have a number of properties that we can set, things like actions, notifications, descriptions, name, and the type. All right, for our tasks, we pretty much have the same thing except for these. We also have what are called timers. So these are task timers, and task timers allow you to at least try to prevent bottlenecks as much as possible by being able to perform an action after a particular set of time. Okay, so that could be after 72 hours, send an email, you could reassign it to someone, or you can perform some sort of a scripted action. Okay. All right, now for our task assignments, I mentioned in the last video that you can have task assignments and you can assign the task assignees by role, okay? But you can also assign them by some other user information as well. So whether or not they're the asset creator, you can assign it by resource actions, you can assign it by role like I mentioned, the role type, so this is going to be one or more roles, and then also you can do scripted assignments or individual users. If there are some specific users you want to step into the workflow process, they might be copy editors, they might just be your reviewers, you can go ahead and identify those individual users as well. Okay? All right, now some of the advanced options we haven't talked about yet for our workflow processes are, like I said, forks and joins. There are conditionals as well. And what you can do is you can essentially set up scripted conditionals, if else statements, if you will, within the workflow process. And you can use the forks and joins to provide essentially parallel processes. So you can have multiple parties reviewing something at one time. Okay. And like I mentioned, those task timers are part of the advanced options that allow us to prevent bottlenecks by performing an action after a certain amount of time has gone by. All right. Now, workflow creators can do the task timers in the XML. As we'll see in this exercise, on the beta build here, they have actually introduced task timers into the Kaleo Designer. But as of right now, if you add the task timer, it's not actually going to save. So we're going to walk through the process as if everything is going to save, because we can expect that for the final release, okay? But we're not going to save it. Okay, so we're just going to walk through the process together, see what it looks like, and then you guys could do some testing and have a little bit of fun on your own after that. Okay. All right, so we are going to create a new parallel process so that we have our administrative users reviewing content and our copy editors reviewing content as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's go ahead and come back to the browser here. If you're not already logged in, make sure you are logged in. Open up the control panel, configuration, and workflow. Okay. All right, so we see our single approver here. Let's go ahead and click on the add button at the top right, and we will see our editor. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and close the menu there so it gives us a little bit more real estate here to work with. All right, and we can go ahead and work this together. So let's go ahead and start by giving it a name. We'll just call this parallel review. Okay. And let's go ahead and get started by moving this around to make it a little bit more visually appealing for us. All right. So go ahead and you can drag the start node to about the middle section here, and the end node can go all the way to the end. All right. Okay, we can go ahead and click on the transition. You'll see it highlight, and we can hit delete on our keyboard to remove the transition. Okay. What this will do is it'll allow us to move some things around so that we can add the nodes and we can connect all of the dots. So you can either do one of two things here. You can either come over here to where you see the icon thinning a little bit, and you can transition into a new task or state or whatever. Okay. Or we can do what we're going to do here by placing all of the necessary pieces onto the graphical editor, and we can go ahead and connect the dots using those transitions. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and drag a task to the top middle. Okay. And drag a task to the bottom middle. Okay, try to make it look as nice as possible. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and edit these tasks. Okay, we'll continue to refine what they actually have in them, but for now we want to at least get the names in there. So go ahead and click on the top task and change the name to Administrator Review. And click Save. Okay. And for the bottom node, go ahead and click on that. And we can double click on the value for name and change this to Copy Editing Review. Okay. All right, I'll move that up just a little bit so we can see it. Okay, so this makes it clear what these tasks are for. The administrators will come in and review, and the copy editors will come in and review as well. Okay. Now, in order to make sure that we can get the parallel process, we can go ahead and take advantage of the fork and the join. Okay. So click on nodes up here and drag a fork, okay, right before our two tasks, okay, in the middle here. And go ahead and do the same thing for a join, but on the other side. Okay. And we can go ahead and click on these and rename them as well. So click on the new fork, and we can go ahead and double click on the name to rename this something like Stakeholder Review. Click Save. All right, and for the join, we can click on this and change the name value to something like Review Complete. And save that there. Okay. All right, now we just need to connect the dots. So again, what you'll see is two different cursors here. There is the bold one, and if it's bold, that means we're going to move this node somewhere on the editor. And if you go to the very edge, you should see it thins out a little bit. And if it's thin, that means that we can drag a transition. Okay, so we can go ahead and click down and drag a transition. All right, and what you're looking for is that little orange circle there. And that orange circle tells me that this will actually connect to another node. All right, so that's how we can see the connector here. So I can go ahead and connect all of the dots here. So for the fork, I want to go ahead and connect upwards to the admin review and connect downwards to the copy editing review. Okay. From the admin review, I want to go down to the review complete join. And from the copy editing review, I want to go to the review complete join. And then from the join, I can transition to the end node. Okay. All right, so we've connected all the dots. All right, this gives us our full transitions here. Okay, so this is what the full process is going to look like. All right, we can also name our transitions instead of just leaving them with connector IDs. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's click on the first transition and double click on that name value and change it to Submit for Review and click Save. Okay. Click on the transition going to the Administrator Review. Okay. Double click on the name value, change this to Admin Review. All right, we can do the same thing for copy editing. Click on the transition, double click on the name value, and we can name this copy editing. Okay. We can go ahead and double click on the transition coming down to the join. And we can rename this guy here, Review Complete. Okay. And we can click on the bottom transition here, and we can rename this Copy Editing Complete. And lastly, we can click on the last selector and change the name to Ready to Publish. And click Save. Okay, so this gives us a good starting point for our workflow. Like I said, we can do some further refining here. Our tasks need to have some assignments. We can set up notifications, and we can even set up our task timers as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that next. All right, so let's go ahead and click on the Administrator Review task. And we can see our new sections here, notifications, timers, and assignments. All right, go ahead and double click on assignments, okay, the value for that. Change this from asset creator to role type, okay? And we'll go ahead and change this from site to regular, and that's gonna be for the entire platform. And for the role name, we can go ahead and select administrator. So it's gonna be towards the bottom of the list there. And we can go ahead and click Save. Okay, nice and easy. That gives us our new role type for the administrative review. Okay, we can do the same thing for copy editing. Go ahead and click on the copy editing task. Go ahead and double click on the property name, the assignment value. Okay, click on that drop down and do role type as well. Okay, and we're going to choose site from the role type drop down, so this will be a site role. And for the role name, we're going to go ahead and actually write something new. So we're going to do copy editor. Okay, and we can go ahead and choose auto create for this. Now what this does is it allows us to create new roles specifically for workflow reviews. Okay, now obviously our copy editors are going to need a little bit more permissions than just being able to step into the review process. So this will create the role for us, and we can have administrators go in and add the permissions needed to actually do the editing that they need to do for their job. Okay, go ahead and click Save. And we now have our new role assignments. Okay, so these are our task assignments. We're doing it by role type for the administrator and for our copy editor. Okay. All right, next we want to go ahead and add our notifications. So go ahead and click on the administrator review and double click on the value for notifications. We'll name this administrator review notification. Okay. For the templating language, you can use FreeMarker for this as well. So that templating language we've been talking about before, being very powerful, you can do that here. But we're just going to do regular text. Okay, so change this from FreeMarker to text. All right. For the template, we can go ahead and type in here something like, there is an item ready for the administrative review. And for the notification type, we're going to go ahead and choose user notification, and that's going to be what shows up on the platform. Okay. You can also do emails, and then you'll see a couple of options here, but those are some placeholders for basically the social office product that we've had in Liferay. Okay. So for our purposes, email and user notification are what we can use. So we'll go ahead and choose user notification. Okay. And lastly, we need to determine the recipient. Okay, in this case, we can change it from asset creator to task assignees. Okay, so this is basically just saying whoever is assigned to this task as the reviewer is going to get this notification. So go ahead and click Save once you're done with that. And we'll do the same thing for our copy editors. Okay, click on the copy editing task, double click on notifications, and we'll call this one copy editing review notification. Okay. All right, same thing here. Change the template to text. All right, and we're going to go ahead and type in here, there is an item ready for copy editing. Okay, same thing. Check user notification and change the recipient type to task assignees. Okay. All right, we can go ahead and click Save. And we can go ahead and from here, if we wanted to, we can publish it. Okay, this is ready to publish. Now, like I said, in this particular build, there is an error that happens when you publish. Okay, so keep that in mind. with the finalized version of the product, we can go ahead and make sure that this is published, that this would be ready to go. Okay. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and take a look at our task timers as well. So I mentioned the task timers. Okay. You can go ahead and click on timers here. And this is where we could add specific timers. So for example, if this review process required a 72-hour turnaround, a 3-day turnaround, and if something went wrong, something didn't happen, we wanted to do something, we can go ahead and add these timers. Okay, so for example, you don't have to do this. This is just a quick example. I can do email timer or something like that. For the duration, I could do 72 and change the scale to hours, or I could just do 3 days. Okay, and these are the actions that I can perform. I can do a notification or a reassignment or something like that, and then I could type all of that in here and determine how to send it out. Okay. All right, so this helps provide the ability to avoid bottlenecks, different things along those lines. Okay, so keep those in mind as well as you are creating and considering your review processes. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and recap what we've talked about in this section here. Okay, so Liferay has the Kaleo workflow engine that allows us to create workflows, and specifically the Kaleo designer that allows us to build our workflows using the graphical editor. Okay, in there we can use some advanced features alongside of those key parts, such as forks and joins. You can also add conditionals as well, where you can provide some basic if-else statements. You can add some scripts to those different aspects of the workflow as well. And we can go ahead and include our notifications, our assignments, and our task timers in our tasks using the graphical editor. Okay. All right, so this is how we can use workflow. In the next set of videos, what we'll do is we'll finalize looking at how to set up a business process by discussing staging and how we can make sure that we have our content in a work in progress environment distinct from our published environment. Okay? So stick around for the next few videos and we will wrap up the entire course with a discussion on staging.